Hi, good day, everybody. This is Dr. Shaukat Malik from UNIDO, and today we are going to discuss the last module of this ISO 9001 2015 training. This last module is module 4, and it consists of three last classes of ISO 9001. That is class number 8, class number 9, and class number 10. In this module, section 1 is about class number 8, section 2 is class number 9, and section 3 is with respect to the last class, that is class number 10. This is very, very important, basically, section. This section 1, that is class number 8, with respect to operations. This is very important because basically it is operational, or you can say it is a production department, or in the manufacturing, either it is a manufacturing, either it is a services. The operational department is very, very important, in which you have to basically convert your product or your service into the final product, into the final shape, into the final item, by uh, following your different processes, and by uh, doing so many activities, by doing the value addition, by applying the resources in terms of manpower, in terms of mechanization, in terms of electricity, in terms of other resources, and then you convert the raw material, either it is product or it is services, to the final product, or you can say to the final services. So that is why this is very important class. And in this class, basically, if you remember in the beginning, that was module 1, we have discussed about the concept of the quality control. We have discussed the concept of quality assurance. We have discussed the quality management system. And this is basically the crux of ISO 9001. And here we will just, you will get complete basically idea what is the quality management system, and its uh, true basically uh, mapping into any manufacturing factory or into any service sector. So that is why this section, this class number 8, that is the operational class, this is very, very important class. If we discuss this class number 8, I'm going back. This is not the section, this is class number 8. And this class number 8 has been basically divided into further 7 subclasses, from class number 8.1 up to class number 8.7. And this is basically, this is 2015 standard, is the revision of the 2008 standard. And in the 2008 standard, this was class 7, now it is class 8. And just for the reference, we have written here that basically the class 7 of the old version, that was 2008, this class, the name of this class was the product realization. But now in this latest version, that is 2015, the name of this class is basically the operational class. And definitely, I told you before that it is the heart of the management system. It is the heart of the quality management system. So this class 8 has been divided into further 7 subclasses, and the 8.1 class that we are going to discuss it with respect to operational planning and control. If you are doing the production, definitely you have in many factories, you would have basically observed that there are production planning and control department. So if you are going the production, if you are going the operation, uh, I mean, if you are converting your raw material or your raw service into the final shape, you have to do the operational. You have to do the different operations. And to do the different operation, basically, again, you need a planning. That is why this subclass 8.1 is the operational planning and control. And if you recall, we have discussed this planning in detail in class number 6.1, 6.2, and 6.3 of this ISO 9001:2015 standard, because this was basically the risk. And in this planning, we have also discussed that planning should be with respect to risk-based thinking as well in 6.1 up to 6.3. But that was the basically organizational planning. In class 6, we basically discussed the organizational planning and the risk-based factor with respect to that overall organizational planning. But here, 8.1, this is the operational planning. And definitely we have to do this operational planning with respect to risk-based thinking as well. And when you are basically planning this operation, you have to do different process flow steps. You will do different processes to convert the raw material or the raw service into the final service or the final product. You will adopt different basically steps, and in between the steps you have to put different controls to check that your quality is maintaining or you are going as per the specification that you have decided or not. That is why this is very, very important to analyze the concept. I mean, to analyze the control measures and to put the control measure. That is why you must have plan. You must have a plan how to implement and how to basically put the control measures on the different stages during this operational activities. And then you have to plan that if you are doing the different processes. For example, when I say process, if it is a juice manufacturing company, definitely the process is one of the processes is to basically to manufacture the juice, or to get the juice from the fruit and then to sterilize it, and then maybe if I am not wrong, then you have to put it into bottles, and then you have to cap the bottle, and in between that definitely you have to put the control measures to check that if you have got the fruit and you are putting into the bottles, that that juice is of the same specification and of the same quality that you have decided or you are expecting. And then at the final stage you have to check the bottle, the capping of the bottle, the shape of the bottle, and the labeling on the bottle. I mean, all these steps where you have to check it, those are the control points in the process. So it means along the process, not only you have to plan your operational planning, what kind of basically resources you need, what kind of raw material you need, what kind of manpower you need, what kind of documentation even you need, what kind of plant and machinery you need, what kind of environmental conditions you need, and then you have to put the control measures that at which stage what kind of basically control measure you have to place, and what would be the frequency of that control measure, and what will be against which standard or which specification you will compare it. But when you are doing all these things, you have to record it. Okay, and definitely you will not be doing everything by yourself. You have to decide that what kind of outsourcing you need, maybe outsourcing in terms of processing, or outsourcing in terms of raw material or the other activities. For example, maybe the outsourcing with respect to checking some of the control measures. For example, if you have to check some of the tests that your lab does not have, or you do not have lab, definitely you will send it out. That is outsourcing. And then you have to check the quality of the outsourcing as well, and what kind of tests you will send outside, and after how much time you will receive the report, and how the reliable report is. All these steps, this is called operational planning, and it needs a lot of basically attention, it needs a lot of focus, and it needs a lot of time. Normally, the Japanese say that if you are putting 70% time on the operational planning and control, then you have to spend 30% time into materializing that product. I mean, 70% resources you have to put in planning, and then 30% would be required to get it done. That is why it is necessary that you may so all these things require a lot of basically attention, and these are the steps and these are the requirement when you are doing operational planning. Then you have to adopt these kind of steps, or you can say that this is basically the checklist. The further subclass, that is 8.2 of this major subclass, is customer communication. I mean, this is very, very important that if you are basically uh, the manufacturer of either product or either services, definitely your final product or your final service is for customer, and you need the customer communication. Customer communication does not mean that it would be one-way activity. It would be a two-way activity. Definitely, you have to decide the specification. Maybe the customer approach you and he asks you, okay, I need this kind of t-shirt, and I need the designing of this kind of t-shirt. This would be the color, and this would be the sleeves, and this would be the color. So all this detail about the product that he need, or about the service that he required, that is a customer communication, and customer will basically explain all this thing to you. Then you will analyze it, and then you will communicate back to the customer, because then you have to check your capability and your capacity. Either you can manufacture or you can provide that service or not. You have the required plant and machinery, or you have the required manpower, you have the trained staff, and specifically with respect to the time period, or you have the sufficient time to achieve this service, or to provide this service or this product to the customer. All these things require too much communication in between you and in between the customer. So this is the one type of customer, providing product and services information to the customer, and getting from the customer, and then come to the final point, and then handling the inquiries, and then finalize the contract. That okay, now after discussing uh, the specification, and after discussing the type of services with the customer, you conclude that now you are satisfied, customer is satisfied, you are satisfied, and then you will basically lock down this deal in the shape of contract. Okay, and then you will manufacture it, you will supply it, you can get the feedback from the customer that how my product is, and sometimes you get the complaint from the customer. This is the controlling of the customer property. Customer property uh, mean that maybe the customer is not the manufacturer of that product. for example, the Nike has no factory anywhere in the world. They develop these T-shirts through outsourcing in the third world. Like they get Nike has so many orders to get these T-shirts from Bangladesh, from Pakistan, from India, from Sri Lanka, and these South Asian countries. But they give the design to develop this kind of T-shirt, and at the end they give the sticker that when you develop this kind of T-shirt as per our agreed specification and agreed quality, you have to put the Nike sticker. So that sticker, that is called controlling of customer property. That is the customer property. And sometimes you have to control the quality of the sticker as well. If the sticker that Nike has provided you will not take care, and you have put some of the sticker that is worn out sticker is not good. If you put it and even the shirt is original Nike shirt, customer will not buy it because he will check the sticker, and the sticker is has the wear and tear in it, and it will be considered that T-shirt is not good. Then you have to do the contingency action plan as well. For example, if due to some problem you are not meeting the required production target, for example, COVID-19 has come and your factory is suffering because of that, and now you are not meeting the required target on time, then what you have to do? It should be the part of the contract, and sometimes you have to keep in mind the plan B as a contingency, MYR or as a contingency plan. So all these things that you have to finalize with the customer, that is the customer communication class. And if I elaborate it further, your customer, your uh, customer knows better than you in all these things, so you have to listen him in every step. The class 8.3 is with respect to design and development of the product and services. I will not go in detail of this class, but simply is that sometimes you do not have the required basically design. For example, if they have to develop the T-shirts, Nike has to develop the T-shirt, then definitely you will not follow the T-shirt of your design. You have to follow the design of the client. That is why you have to basically get the design input from the customer. Then you have to basically discuss about that design, and then you have to basically uh, I mean finalize, and you have to agree on that design, and then you have to develop the prototype, and then you have to send the prototype design to your client or to your customer, and he will accept that prototype, and then you will log that prototype, and then you have to go into the mass production for that thing. All these types are basically the design input, design development stage, design validation stage, design verification stage, and then you have to basically finalize this design with the customer. Here I'm showing you this in this design and development subclass. There are further subclasses. This is general. This is design and development planning. This is again a planning, but with respect to design and development. First, we have discussed the planning in class number 6. That was organizational planning. And then in class 8.1, I mean, in class, this major 8 class, that is 8.1, that was with respect to operational planning. And here again, 8.3.2, this is a class with respect to design and development planning, because to do the design, you need planning as well. And sometime if there are big engineering companies and they have to design a boiler, and they have to design a geyser, or they have to design a basically complete plant and machinery, then this class would become more complicated, and a lot of basically steps would be required into it. But these are the further subclasses that need to be considered when you are going into this phase. This 8.4 is another subclass, that is control of externally provided processes, product, and services. You know, in the last subclass, that was 8.2, we have discussed about uh, externally provided items. That was the sticker. I mean, the not the externally provided, but the customer provided items. 8.2. Okay, that was like the stickers, like the label, these kind of things that customer provide to you to put it on their final product. But here this 8.4 is control of externally provided processes, product, and services. Basically here the external providers are basically the supplier. In the old version of this ISO 9001, that was I mean 2008 version, there was a clause with respect to supplier. Now in this 2015, the supplier name has been changed, and here these are the external providers. But these are external provider either with respect to product or with respect to services. For example, with respect to product, definitely you need the raw material, maybe you need from the suppliers. But what about the testing facility? That maybe you need the supplier, but he would be, again, it would be supplier, it would be external provider, but it would be service provider, not the product provider. But definitely you need basically the suppliers list, you need the supplier evaluation, and you need the supplier control, the type and the extent of the control. I mean, some of the supplier have very good systems, or you can say some of the big multinational companies, they say that our supplier are our basically external providers, or the product provider or service provider should be ISO 9001. But you have to decide by keeping in mind your own uh, organizational context, or your own basically the country infrastructure. You have to decide that what type of supplier you need, and what should be basically the control measure you want to put on that supplier. But supplier basically monitoring and evaluation is very, very important, so that you may come to know that which supplier is behaving in which direction. You can put that criteria with respect to supply on time is can be one criteria for the evaluation of the supplier. Meeting the required quality is can be another criteria. Meeting the required quantity on time. So these kind of different criteria you can put, and then you can basically evaluate it that over the period of 1 year, if this is X supplier, what was his behavior with respect to quality, with respect to quantity, and with respect to time delivery, or with respect to other parameters whatsoever you want to decide. And then information for external provider. This is very, very important, that you have to basically have very good two-way communication with your customer in the previous class, and here with your supplier or your external provider. The terminology is the external provider for supplier. We can say it is very, very important you have the two-way communication you have to explain to him what kind of product he should supply, how much quantity you need, and what kind of quality you need, what kind of basically what should be the time period for this typical product or the services he has to provide to you. This is very, very important that all this information should be shared with the supplier. And then, if you are sharing it properly, yes, then you can monitor it that how he is behaving over the period of time. But definitely you have to basically write these things into the purchase order or into your contract, and whatsoever you like, it is feasible, but it should be very clear. The control of external provided processes, product and services. If I brief you from here, this is external provider, mean this is supplier. Either he is supplying the product or he is supplying the services to you or the raw material. So he will start from here. You will basically, he will send the raw material, equipment or services as per your specification. When you will receive it, you will receive and you will do the verification. Organization will do the verification. If it is fine with respect to quantity and quality, then you will accept it. Otherwise, you will not accept. But before that, you have to send him communication, mean what kind of basically on the purchase order, as I briefed you, you have to write the product specification, raw material specification, type, class, grade, some kind of raw material needs special grades. So you have to give all the possible information in the purchase order. Then review and approve. Customer will basically, external provider, supplier will review it and he will approve it and he will say, okay, I can supply it. Okay, and then he will supply it as per that. And here you will check it with respect to this thing. I mean, receiving the verification, whatsoever you have written on the purchase order with respect to quality and quantity, you will receive it here, you will verify it, and this cycle will keep on going. And this is called control of externally provided processes, product and services. Production and service provision. This is basically 8.5, and in this class, basically 8.5 class, production and service provision mean uh, now you are producing the product. Before that, it was planning. Now here at this stage, 8 point, I mean, overall 8 class is with respect to operational control. But if you recall, 8.1 is basically operational planning. Okay, and in the planning, you have to finalize the resources, you have to finalize the supplier, you have to discuss your planning with the customer and everything. That was the part of the planning, and it was 8.1 was the operational planning. But now here 8.5 is the production and the service provision. Then you have to convert all your raw material or your received items and everything into the basically final shape. So in the final shape, control of production and service provision, identification of the traceability, property belonging to customer or the external provider. These are the different steps and these are the different subclasses of the subclass 8.5. And this class, basically 8.5 class is very, very important class. And in this class, basically, you are actually converting your raw material into the final shape. This class provide a list of control requirements that you may use if applicable to your business. Identify and control all the operational processes, show the interaction of these processes, because process always interact with each other. Use your product, project, or contract quality plan, because you have planned into the planning stage what will be your checking point and what will be your quality point. So you have to basically compare it with the quality plan to control your operational activities, schedule your operations and your customer delivery schedules, your production capacity, your production capability, your material availability, your traffic and shipping and packaging and labeling. Use quality plans to control your operational processes. Quality plans address what has to be made, how much has to be made, when it has to be made, by whom you has to be made, how it has to be made, and what equipment to use, what measurement and monitoring tools you have to use, what to inspect, when to inspect, how much to inspect, and what to do if some problems occur. Your quality plan must cover all the operation process steps, from receipt of raw material, converting it into production, packaging it, after the packaging, storage it, delivery it, and even the post-delivery activities. And even the post-delivery activities consists the warranty, the installation, the training of your service providers. All these things need a complete quality plan and need the step-by-step quality checks. And we will discuss it in detail when we will implement it, because this is not scope of this training plan. So next is basically 8.5, production and service provision. This class is basically converting your all operational planning and control measures now into the production. So control of production and service provision is definitely, you have done the production planning first, then you have to do the production control. Availability of the product specification, availability of the work instruction, use of the suitable equipment, availability of the monitoring and measuring devices. I mean, now it is after the production planning, you have to basically do the production. And in the production, basically either it is a manufacturing or it is a service. You have to decide basically what is the work instruction, what are your checkpoints, and how you will keep on checking and how you will keep on monitoring, and what kind of balance you can put into the production and in between the quality. Because too much production without monitoring, you will lose the quality, and too much quality check, you will lose the production or the productivity. So you have to keep the balance in between them, and you must have a trained monitoring and evaluation team with you. You must have your measuring devices to check it, and you must have your complete control system to convert the raw material into the final product or into the final service. Definitely, some of the uh, production process need traceability. Like in you have noted maybe into the organic certification, traceability is very important. Traceability in organic certification of the cocoa, for example, is that from which farm you have got this cocoa bean. But here in the factory, traceability is that sometimes you have seen that, especially on the food item, they put the different lot number, they put the different batch number, serial number, manufacturing date, registration date. Why they put this kind of data on the basically consumable products? The objective is that if something may happen wrong into one batch, then it is not necessary that we make uh, pull back all the items those have been supplied before. For example, during the testing process, it has been noted that there was problem in the production batch that has been developed on the 3rd and 4th May. But the batch that has been developed or that has been manufactured on the 2nd and the 5th May onward, that was fine. There is no quality problem into it. So it means you have to pull back the batches, those have been dispatched during these 2 dates. You have to pull back those batches from the market. You cannot pull back those batches if you do not know that what were those batches, if the batch number is not written on the bottle, or if the batch number and the lot number is not written into your record when you have dispatched your product to your retailer or to your dealer. Maybe you have dispatched it to the dealer, and then dealer must have record that to whom retailer they have sent it. I mean, then it means you must have a system you can trace your product from retailer up to your factory. This is called identification and traceability, and this is the objective to develop this system into companies, specifically the food manufacturing companies. The pharmaceutical companies definitely they also need this kind of lot and batch system, because sometimes they have some problems, and they even you have noted that the Toyota car, in the car manufacturing, they have some problems into some of the batches, and they recall those batches from the market. Now the property belonging to customer or the external provider. Property belonging to customer, I have given you example that they can send you sticker or some kind of labeling material, or property belonging to external providers. Those are your supplier. But in both cases, either it is customer property or it is supplier property, you have to basically monitor it. When you are receiving, you have to basically check it, verify it that these are either these are customer property or the supplier or external provider property. You have to check it that you are receiving it in good shape as per your specification, and then you have to basically maintain those things into your store, and if some problem occurs, you have to segregate the damaged items so that it may not be used into the production process. So all this system should be available into your into your company and into your entire organization. 8.5.4 is definitely the preservation, availability of the suitable arrangement for handling and shifting of products. Okay. For example, if you have basically now you have manufactured your item, how you have to handle those items. I mean, now from your final assembly line, you have to put it into the stores, or maybe you have to put it into different packets. How you will pack it, how you will store it, how you will protect it. Maybe some of the food items need refrigerators, so how you can store it, or some of the food items or some of the other items, they have the shelf life, they need specific basically environmental condition with respect to temperature and humidity, how you have to maintain it, and then how you have to deliver it. For example, if you are making the butter, then definitely you must have the refrigerated delivery container. I mean, all these things Once you have produced the items, then you have to handle it properly up to the stage it must be delivered at the retailer shop. Even you have seen the Pepsi or some kind of these organizations, they give the refrigerator to the retailer. Why? First, definitely is for their advertisement. Secondly, to put the product into specific environmental conditions. Okay, so that they can maintain these conditions into the retail shop, because the ultimate objective is the manufacturer that his product should be delivered to the last customer in a good way and in a quality and in a safe way. This is the objective. A release of product and services. Definitely, before definitely sending it to your dealer or to your retailer, you must have all this record available. You must verify your products, and then you have to dispatch it, and then you must keep the documented information for the traceability purpose. Now, 8.7 is the control of non-conforming output. I briefed you into the beginning of this ISO 9000 in the quality concept that control of non-conforming at the output and control of non-conforming in the process and control of non-conforming in the raw material, control of non-conforming by getting the customer complaint or the customer feedback. All this is non-conforming. And how you have to control it, basically you have to basically get the data, you have to check your final product either at the assembly line, after the assembly line, or from get the feedback from the customer. All the things those are you are not getting as per the specification, as per the quality of your product, those are non-conforming. You have to correct it, you have to segregate it, and you have to take the corrective and preventive actions. This is called control of non-conforming basically system. But control of non-conforming output means at the end you have to inspect the items, and the items those are not good, you have to segregate those items, and then you have to put it out from the final lot, so that these should not be basically delivered to the customer, and you have to keep the record of these items, and you have to put separation of these items from the good items. Okay, I mean you have to put good items and bad items in a segregated way, so that these non-conforming items, as per your inspection report, these should not be dispatched to your customer at the final stage. You must have system into your organization. Otherwise, at the end, maybe due to some mistake, they can be dispatched. So this was the section 1, and we have discussed this clause number 8, that was operation clause, and now the clause number 9 is with respect to the performance evaluation clause. I mean, you are doing the operation, you are doing the production, but now it is the time to evaluate the performance, monitor, uh, and measure the system when you are basically producing the items. This is one of the things, and some of the things you can do the measurement system through some measuring equipment. Then this is internal audit. This is internal audit is basically the audit of your quality management system to check the intactness or to check the effectiveness of your quality management system. You have to do the internal audit, and this is requirement of this clause 9 and further subclause of clause this clause 9 point basically 2 that at least once in a year you have to do the internal audit. We will discuss what is this internal audit and what is this management review. But all these, this is monitoring and measurement of your production or your basically operation system. But this is internal audit is basically the audit of your quality management system, and management review is for both. I mean to discuss the results of your monitoring of this 9.1 and 9.2 into this management review meeting. So what is this 9.1? Monitoring and measurement analysis and evaluation. For example, your customer satisfaction data. You can get the data from your customer. Sometimes you get the complaint from your customer, and sometimes you do the customer surveys to check the customer satisfaction index. But anyhow, both this customer satisfaction is basically one of the criteria through which you can understand that how you are performing. Analysis and evaluation of this data that you have received from the customer or you have received from your stakeholders sometimes, not only from customer, your stakeholders can be many, your regulator, your government sector, your other people. All this analysis and evaluation would give you basically a pictorial view, will give you basically the overall feel that where you are going. Internal audit, as I briefed you have to check your quality management system, and this internal audit basically need a lot of training, and we always conduct a separate training for this internal audit, how to do the internal audit, and there will be a separate session on it. Maybe I may develop a separate module on it, how to do the internal audit, because once you have implemented the ISO 9001 or even ISO 22000 or ISO 14000 system into your organization, then you have to monitor after some period that how you are going. That is why you need internal auditors. Internal auditor or internal audit means audit done by your own company, by your own people to check your own performance. And external audit means audit done by the certification body, by the external people. Okay, but actual thing is the internal audit. If your internal audit team is strong, if your internal auditors are strong, if you are doing the internal audit frequently, then your system would be wonderful system. And once the external audit team will come, they would find it in good shape. But how to do it, it needs a separate module and a separate training. Then whatsoever you have got the data from your management satisfaction review or from your internal audit or from your external audit, you will conduct a management review meeting at least once in a year, but you can do as and when required what will be the input mean agenda of that meeting. But this management review meeting would be attended by the CEO of the organization. He would chair the meeting, and in that meeting, basically, you would discuss as an agenda item the result of the audit, complaint and feedback, product and service performance, your pending action, I mean internal audit action, your non-conformance, external market status, your improvement, your suggestions, all these things would be discussed in this top management performance review meeting. Okay, and then as an action point are the minutes of the meeting where some resources would be required, top management would analyze maybe resources required in shape of training, resources required, maybe you do not have that testing facility, maybe you do not have that specific tool or specific equipment. So the management would decide with respect to these kind of things, what kind of corrective action is required, and maybe in some cases some HR policy or some other things are required. So all these things would be basically decided by the management based on some data, not in the air, but how effective data you would put into your management review meeting as an input, how much would be the data quality of your input data, you will get good results in this meeting. Now the section 3 is the last section, that is improvement. What it means, and this is clause number 10, if you have all the clauses implemented from clause number 1 up to clause number 9 of this very good quality management system, that I always say it is a basically the excellent system or the excellent standard, and these are the basically excellent and the world best practices you are implementing into your organization. But then, and you are not getting any improvement, it means it is a wastage of time. So it is mandatory that if you are basically implementing all this system, you must analyze that where you are going. Okay, what is now your customer satisfaction index as compared to last year? How much complaint you have received this year? What is the rate of rejection? How you are moving? What is the employee satisfaction index? Not only the customer satisfaction index. What is your overall objectives and targets you are achieving? All this thing would basically give you sense that you are going upward or you are going downward and where you are going. And if you are not going upward, it means you are going downward, but you are not basically looking it properly. So that is why this improvement clause is very, very important, and this is clause number 10. And in this clause, basically, action, as I briefed you, that what is your rate of rejection, even what is your market share. Ultimate objective is that your market share has improved or not, your bottom line has improved or not. Okay, because the overall objective is that what is your rate of now return on your investment. Okay, all these things are basically the parameters in which you can analyze that you are improving or you are not improving. So action must be taken to meet the customer requirement and enhance the customer satisfaction, improve the product and services, corrective and preventive actions, and your internal audit results. All these things you are non-conforming during that year, and how you have taken those non-conformance, how effective you have done the root cause analysis. For example, if there was some non-conformance and you have done the root cause analysis, you have done the corrective action, but after 3 months, the same problem is repeating again. So it means the effectiveness of that corrective action was not there. So even your corrective action must be effective, and these will not be effective if your root cause analysis would not be effective. This is the basically, I always say it is a continual improvement cycle. What is the difference between continuous improvement or continual improvement? Continuous improvement is basically the improvement that is steep. I mean, if this I try, it is unable to write here. Maybe continuous improvement, but continual improvement is a gradual. You improve, you sustain it, and then you again improve. that improvement is always sustainable improve, and that improvement is required into the organization, and that improvement is possible if you are selecting your objectives carefully, you are monitoring your customer. These are the tools through which you can improve again and again in a continual way. Continuous, you improve and then you come back. That is not sustainable. You improve rapidly, but then again you come back rapidly. That is continuous improvement. But continual, you improve, you sustain, and then you again improve further. So these are the continual improvement tools. Your customer monitoring, your internal audit, mean you have implemented the quality management system in very good way, but you have to keep on monitoring it. You must have good trained internal auditors, and then you have to monitor your product and your process. I briefed you in the beginning the cycle, that what is mean by quality management system cycle. You have to plan that during the manufacturing process, what are the basically points. You have to monitor your production process or your service process. So if you are implementing these three monitoring and measurement tools, then definitely you will do the data analysis proper way, and you are taking the corrective action, and based on these corrective action you are again selecting the objectives, and then you are implementing those objectives. And basically again I would now conclude this session by saying that this is PDCA. You can improve at every step by implementing PDCA, and all this ISO 9001 2015 is based again three concepts. Again, I would repeat, major is the PDCA. You have to adopt this mentality and this methodology, that you have to plan, then you have to do, then you have to check it, and then you have to act accordingly. The second thing is basically the CPOC. That is basically supplier input, process output, customer. You have to put the control measures on each CPOC, on each step of the CPOC. You have to put the control measures on the S, then on the I, then on the P. Okay. And if you are putting the control measures on the CPOC line, then it means you are monitoring your system in a proper way. And the last but not the least is the RBT, that is risk-based thinking. Because if you are planning, you have to plan and you have to adopt the CPOC by keeping in mind and by analyzing all the risks. So thank you very much. This is the end of this ISO 9001 2000 basically 15 4 modules. We have discussed the module 1, that was basically the concept and the history of ISO 9001 and the concept of quality management system and the concept of quality. Then module 2, we have discussed the clause number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I briefed you that the actual implementation clause starts from clause number 4. Then in the module 3, we have discussed clause number 6 and 7, and today the last module, we have discussed the clause number 8, 9, 10. So this is my Twitter account. This is the project Twitter account and the project Facebook page. Please remain in touch, and you would get a lot of information. And we will discuss during our question and answer session that what is next. Thank you very much till that time. Bye bye.